In an earlier video, I mentioned that I had seen a great grey shrike, and it was probably the great grey shrike, maybe the red starts and things like that at Bearwood College that got me interested. But the great grey shrike was a very, very cool bird. It predates any notepad where I wrote it other than that one entry in my first notepad. So I've got no notes, I've got no drawings, I've got nothing other than just memories in my head. Now, my good friend Peter lived right next door to the park. In fact, their patio doors overlooked the field, which the great grey shrike often just hung out in. So I saw this bird absolutely tons of times, and it was there from the 27th of November 1980 right the way through to the 6th of April 1981. But I have no notepads that tell me how many times I saw it. I just know I saw it a lot. Now, the great grey shrike, to give a little bit of background about shrikes for those that don't know, it's basically sort of a carnivore. Not singularly, it's a bit of an omnivore as well. They do eat insects, but they will eat mammals and other birds. And when there's a glut, or there's just a lot of food around to be caught, they will create a larder in the form of, they will find a nice spiny, prickly bush, and they will impale their prey, dead, onto the spikes. They're a worldwide species. Shrikes are all over the world and in various places. But the great grey shrike, not that I actually saw it doing that myself, we just knew that it would just drop down on things and then just keep going back to the same bushes and trees. Grey, black and white bird, a little bit smaller than a magpie, but really, really excellent looking thing. And I think it was just the sight of that bird, my friend living next door to Dinton Pastures, and that third factor of going to Bearwood College on my paper round, that I was immersed in nature all the time, and I just couldn't help it. I just had to become involved. Now, jump to 1984. March the 10th, back at the same piece of habitat that we called it Mortimer's Scrape back then. It became Mortimer's Meadow when the council decided to landscape it and destroy it as a bird area. I'm sure that wasn't intentional, but they did. Where I'd found 2 water pipits, and I did spent some time learning the different calls, the contact calls, flight calls of water pipits versus meadow pipits were in the area. And also have a little chuckle here. I had my first driving lesson with my friend Pete on the 11th of March 1984, just in the car park. But, yes, I know I've mentioned it already, but I thought I'd bring it up for this specific one. There's the entry for the Avocet, and there's the picture of it flying. 13th of March 1984. So 12th of March 1983, 18 Brent geese. 13th of March 1984, Avocet. And then, if I can jump forward 2 years, 13th of March 1986, I was just entering the park for my walk, and my friend, it was about 3 o'clock in the afternoon according to my notes here, and my friend Phil was coming away from his walk. Anything about? Nah, boring. Oh, well, I'm going to go around anyway, I've just arrived, that's what I've come here for. And he looked like he was umming and ahhing. He said, I think I'll join you. And we walked anti-clockwise round Black Swan Lake, got to the far side of it, about halfway round, and I was panning around with my scope, and I suddenly clocked these 2 birds in the middle. Now, I don't know whether they'd flown in and he, in the time he'd been coming away, or whether he'd just overlooked them. But I turned to him and I said, so nothing here then, huh? You better take a look. And he looked through the scope, and he looked back at me and we both went, ah! Did a little victory dance. And even my notes say we were rather jubilant. Funny thing, 13th of March, it's always stayed in my head. I don't know why it happened, whether other things will happen on the 13th of March. Time will tell.